The press conference was scheduled for 2 o'clock, but journalists started gathering outside the compound at dawn. By noon, Ademla reported that over 200 media representatives were waiting: television crews, radio reporters, newspaper journalists, bloggers, and social media influencers, all wanting to hear directly from the woman who'd brought down Senator Adeyemi. Amara stood in her father's bedroom, listening as a stylist helped her prepare. The woman, recommended by Deputy Commissioner Obi, was carefully arranging Amara's hair and selecting an outfit that would photograph well. "You should wear the blue Ankara," Chioma said. "The one Grandpa bought you for your birthday last year. He said it made you look like Nigerian royalty." "Royalty?" Amara laughed. "I'm just a blind widow trying to survive." "You're the woman who took down a corrupt senator," the stylist corrected. "You're the woman who refused to be a victim. Mrs. Okonkwo, half of Nigeria sees you as a hero." "And the other half?" Amara asked. "Sees you as a threat," Ademla said from the doorway. "Which is why we have snipers on every roof in a 3-block radius. Security has never been tighter." Amara felt the weight of that reality. She wasn't just giving a press conference. She was painting a target on her back, making herself visible to every enemy Adeyemi still had lurking in the shadows. "It's not too late to cancel," Emeka said, entering the room. "You could issue a written statement instead. Safer." "No," Amara said firmly. "Nigeria needs to see me. They need to see that I'm not hiding, not afraid. They need to see that ordinary people can stand up to corruption." "You're far from ordinary," Barrister Okoro said, joining the growing crowd in the bedroom. "Mrs. Okonkwo, I've been practicing law for 30 years. I've never seen courage like yours. Or stupidity like mine," Amara said wryly. "Sometimes I wonder if there's a difference." "There is," Chioma said. "Stupid people don't know they're in danger. Brave people know and do it anyway." Amara pulled her daughter close. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm a Nwosu woman," Chioma said. "We're born wise." At 1:30, Deputy Commissioner Obi arrived with final updates. "The EFCC has just released preliminary findings from the server your husband helped us locate. 23 senators have been arrested in the past 12 hours. 15 governors have had their bank accounts frozen. The president has declared a state of emergency in the fight against corruption. Mrs. Okonkwo, your press conference is going to be broadcast live across the entire nation, possibly the entire continent." Amara felt her stomach clench. "How many people?" "Estimates suggest 50 to 60 million viewers, maybe more. This is the biggest news story in Nigeria in decades." "No pressure," Amara said weakly. "You'll be brilliant," Emeka assured her. "Just speak from the heart. Tell the truth. That's all you need to do." At 2 o'clock precisely, Ademla guided Amara out to the compound's front terrace where a podium had been set up. Chioma stayed close to her right side, and Emeka stood to her left. Deputy Commissioner Obi and General Musa flanked them, a visible show of official support and protection. The noise from the gathered media was overwhelming. Shouted questions, camera shutters clicking, the hum of drones overhead capturing aerial footage. Amara couldn't see any of it, but she could feel the weight of millions of eyes watching her through television screens and phone displays across Nigeria. Ademla stepped to the microphone first. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press, thank you for attending. Mrs. Amara Okonkwo will make a statement and then take a limited number of questions. Please hold your questions until she's finished speaking. Mrs. Okonkwo?" Amara moved to the microphone, her hands finding the edges of the podium. She took a deep breath and began. "My name is Amara Okonkwo, daughter of the late Chief Adebayo Nwosu, and I am here today to tell you the truth about corruption, about abuse, and about fighting back when everything seems hopeless. 3 years ago, I was in a car accident that left me permanently blind. I was told it was a tragic accident, just bad luck. But it wasn't an accident. Senator Adeyemi ordered a mechanic to tamper with my car's brakes because my father was investigating his corruption network. The senator wanted to hurt me so badly that my father would be distracted, vulnerable, easy to eliminate. I survived, but I lost my sight. And in that darkness, I also lost my sense of self. I became dependent on my husband, Chidi Okonkwo, a man I thought loved me, but who was actually working with Senator Adeyemi. For 3 years, my husband controlled every aspect of my life. He told me I was incompetent, unstable, unable to handle my own affairs. He isolated me from friends. He made me believe I was worthless without him. 6 months ago, my father died. The official cause was a heart attack, but yesterday, forensic analysis confirmed what many of us suspected. Chief Adebayo Nwosu was murdered, poisoned with digitalis on the orders of Senator Adeyemi, who wanted to silence one of the few men in Nigeria brave enough to investigate corruption at the highest levels. Last week, my husband brought me to a bank and tried to force me to sign documents that would transfer my entire $400 million inheritance to his control. He planned to steal everything, divorce me, and leave me with nothing. But a brave cashier named Zainab read those documents aloud, and I finally understood the depth of the betrayal I was facing. I refused to sign, and that refusal set off a chain of events that exposed Senator Adeyemi's entire corruption network. Amara paused, hearing murmurs ripple through the crowd. She continued, "I stand before you today not as a hero, but as a survivor. I survived an attempted murder. I survived 3 years of domestic abuse. I survived a husband who tried to steal my inheritance and a senator who tried to steal my father's life. And I want every woman in Nigeria who is trapped in a similar situation to know something. You can survive too. Domestic abuse is not your fault. Financial control is not love. Being told you're crazy or incompetent or worthless, those are not truths. Those are weapons used against you. And you have the right to fight back. Corruption is not just about politicians stealing money. It's about powerful men who believe they can take whatever they want, money, property, lives, without consequences. Senator Adeyemi believed he was untouchable. He believed he could murder my father, attempt to murder me, steal from Nigerian citizens for years, and never face justice. He was wrong. Because my father, even in death, fought back. He kept meticulous records. He prepared legal protections. He ensured that when the time came, justice would be possible. And because brave people like Deputy Commissioner Obi, General Musa, and Director Emeka Okafor refused to look the other way, they chose to fight, even when fighting was dangerous. And because a cashier named Zainab did her job with integrity, even when it would have been easier and safer to let a blind woman sign documents she couldn't read. This is how we defeat corruption, not with grand gestures, but with small acts of courage. One person refusing to sign. One police commissioner refusing to take bribes. One journalist refusing to stay silent. One woman refusing to accept abuse as normal. My father used to say that Nigeria is built on steel, strong, enduring, capable of bearing enormous weight. But steel must be maintained. It must be protected from rust, from corruption, from decay. For too long, we've let the corruption spread, let powerful men rust away the foundations of our country. No more. Today, I'm announcing the creation of the Chief Adebayo Nwosu Foundation for Women's Justice. This foundation will provide legal support, financial assistance, and safe housing for women trapped in abusive marriages. It will fund anti-corruption investigations. It will support journalists who speak truth to power. And it will ensure that my father's legacy is not just about building businesses, but about building a better Nigeria. I'm also pledging $100 million from my inheritance to support the EFCC's anti-corruption efforts. Money to hire more investigators, to protect witnesses, to pursue cases against powerful criminals no matter how well-connected they are. Senator Adeyemi took my sight. He took my father. He nearly took my inheritance and my life. But he couldn't take my voice. He couldn't take my determination. He couldn't take my refusal to accept injustice as normal. And neither can anyone else. To every woman in Nigeria who is being abused, speak up. Find help. You are stronger than you know. To every Nigerian tired of corruption, demand better. Hold leaders accountable. Change is possible. To every person who thinks powerful criminals are untouchable, watch Senator Adeyemi's trial. Watch as evidence brings him down. Watch as justice, however slowly, however imperfectly, begins to work. My father believed in Nigeria. He believed that underneath the corruption, underneath the violence and chaos, there was something strong and true and worth fighting for. I believe that too. And I will spend the rest of my life fighting for the Nigeria my father envisioned. A Nigeria where justice is possible, where women are safe, where corruption is punished, and where even a blind widow can stand up to a senator and win. Thank you. The terrace erupted in chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. People applauded and wept and called out Amara's name. She stood at the podium, overwhelmed by the response, feeling Chioma squeeze her hand tightly. Ademola restored order, pointing to select journalists for questions. Mrs. Okonkwo, are you afraid of retaliation? A woman's voice called out. Terrified, Amara answered honestly, but more afraid of staying silent. What do you say to critics who claim you're only speaking out because you're wealthy enough to afford protection? A man asked. I say they're right. Amara replied. I have privileges most Nigerian women don't have. That's exactly why I need to use those privileges to help others. If I, with $400 million and armed guards, am afraid to speak out, what hope do women without resources have? I need to be brave so they can see that bravery is possible. What message do you have for Senator Adeyemi? Another journalist called. Amara paused, then spoke directly into the camera she couldn't see. Senator, you tried to make me helpless by taking my sight. But you made me stronger. You tried to silence my father by killing him. But you made his voice louder. Every evil thing you've done has backfired. And now, the entire nation is watching as justice comes for you. I hope it was worth it. And your husband? Any message for Chidi Okonkwo? I hope he finds redemption in cooperation. Amara said. I hope the information he's providing helps dismantle the corruption network he was part of. But I also hope he understands that redemption doesn't erase consequences. He will serve his time. He will lose his family. Those are the prices of his choices. Mrs. Okonkwo, you mentioned the cashier Zainab who read the documents aloud. Have you spoken with her? Not yet, Amara said. But I want to thank her publicly. Zainab, if you're watching, you saved my life. Your integrity and courage made all of this possible. The foundation will be offering you a position as our Director of Ethics Training. We need people like you teaching others how to choose right over easy. One last question. Ademola announced. From Channels Television. Mrs. Okonkwo, what gives you hope for Nigeria's future? Amara smiled. My daughter. Chioma is 15 years old. She's survived trauma, fear, and betrayal. But instead of becoming bitter or defeated, she's become determined to help others. She suggested creating the foundation. She wants to change Nigeria for the better. When I see her generation, smart, courageous, unwilling to accept corruption as normal, I have tremendous hope. The old guard like Senator Adeyemi is falling. The new generation is rising. And they're going to build the Nigeria my father always believed in. The press conference ended to thunderous applause. As Ademla guided Amara back inside, Deputy Commissioner Obi whispered, "That was perfect. Absolutely perfect. You just became the face of Nigeria's anti-corruption movement." "I just became a bigger target," Amara corrected. "That too," Deputy Commissioner Obi admitted. "But you also just inspired millions of people." The FCC's tip line has received over 10,000 calls in the last 30 minutes. People are reporting corruption, abuse, crimes they've witnessed. "Mrs. Okonkwo, you've started something that can't be stopped." Back inside the compound, Amara collapsed onto a sofa, exhausted. Chioma sat beside her, and they held hands in silence. "You were amazing, Mama," Chioma finally said. "Grandpa would have been so proud." "I hope so," Amara said. "I hope I honored his memory." "You did more than that," Emeka said. "You gave his death meaning. You transformed personal tragedy into national inspiration." "Amara, you just changed Nigeria. Or I just painted a bigger target on our backs," Amara said. "Both can be true," Emeka said. "But it was still the right thing to do." As evening fell, Amara learned that her press conference had gone viral across Africa and internationally. News outlets from CNN to BBC were covering the story. Social media was flooded with messages of support and solidarity. Hashtag Justice for Amara was trending worldwide. But there were also threats. Death threats, kidnapping threats, promises of violence from Adeyemi's supporters and allies. The EFCC was investigating every single one, but the sheer volume was overwhelming. "This is what happens when you challenge power," Deputy Commissioner Obi explained. "The corrupt fight back with everything they have." "I'm ready," Amara said. "We're ready. Bring it on." Amara has inspired a nation, but made powerful enemies. What will happen next? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. Comment below, would you have the courage to do what Amara did? The trial of Senator Adeyemi began 6 months later on a sweltering October morning at the Federal High Court in Lagos. The courthouse was surrounded by thousands of Nigerians, supporters chanting for justice, Adeyemi's loyalists claiming political persecution, journalists from around the world documenting what some were calling the trial of the century. Amara arrived in an armored vehicle, surrounded by EFCC agents and General Musa's soldiers. She'd spent the past 6 months in protective custody, though conditions had gradually relaxed as more of Adeyemi's network was dismantled. 147 people had been arrested in connection with the corruption scheme. Tens of billions of naira had been recovered. The Nigerian government was undergoing its most significant reform in decades. And through it all, Amara had become a symbol of resistance, of courage, of the possibility of change. "Are you ready?" Deputy Commissioner Obi asked as they approached the courthouse entrance. "As ready as I'll ever be," Amara replied. Chioma squeezed her hand. Inside the courtroom, Amara was guided to the witness stand. She couldn't see Senator Adeyemi sitting at the defense table, couldn't see the judge presiding over the proceedings, couldn't see the packed gallery of observers. But she could feel the weight of their attention, could sense the historical significance of this moment. The prosecutor, a brilliant woman named Barrister Afolabi, began her examination. "Mrs. Okonkwo, please tell the court about the day your husband attempted to fraudulently access your inheritance." And Amara told her story. Every detail. The bank, the cashier reading aloud, her husband's confession, Senator Adeyemi's threats. She spoke for 3 hours, answering every question with clarity and precision. When it was the defense attorney's turn to cross-examine, he tried to paint Amara as a scorned wife seeking revenge, as a blind woman easily confused, as someone manipulated by her father's business rivals. But Amara didn't falter. For every accusation, she had an answer. For every attempt to discredit her, she had evidence, bank records, recordings, Witness testimony. Mrs. Okonkwo, the defense attorney finally asked, isn't it true that you stand to gain financially from Senator Adeyemi's conviction? That your foundation has received donations based on your victimhood? Amara smiled. Sir, I'm worth $600 million. I don't need donations. The foundation receives funding from people who believe in fighting corruption. If that makes me wealthy, then yes, I gain financially from standing up to evil men. I'm comfortable with that. The gallery erupted in applause. The judge called for order, but couldn't quite hide his own smile. Over the next 3 weeks, witness after witness testified against Adeyemi. Chitty, looking gaunt and broken, provided devastating testimony about the senator's money laundering operations. Kemi Adeyemi, looking for her own deal, turned on her father and described years of criminal activity. The private doctor who'd poisoned Chief Nwosu explained in clinical detail how the murder had been planned and executed. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, communications, video footage, forensic analysis, testimony from dozens of witnesses. Senator Adeyemi's defense crumbled like sand. On the final day of testimony, the prosecution played a recording that had been found on the server. Senator Adeyemi speaking to his inner circle 6 months before Chief Nwosu's death. The chief is a problem that needs solving. He's digging into our contracts, asking questions, threatening to expose everything. We need to handle him permanently. Make it look natural. A heart attack, a stroke, something that won't raise suspicions. And if we can hurt his daughter first, break his spirit, that's even better. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as the recording played. Senator Adeyemi, for the first time since the trial began, looked defeated. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the foreman read the verdict. On the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. On the charges of attempted murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the charges of money laundering, corruption, conspiracy, fraud, and witness intimidation, we find the defendant guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. People cheered, wept, embraced. Security had to restore order multiple times. The judge sentenced Senator Adeyemi to 7 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He would die in prison. As the sentencing was read, Amara heard Adeyemi shout, "This isn't justice. This is a witch hunt. I'll appeal. I'll fight this until—" Senator Adeyemi, the judge interrupted coldly, "You've spent decades corrupting Nigeria, stealing from the poor, murdering anyone who threatened your power. Your appeals will fail. Your connections can't save you anymore." Justice, however delayed, has finally arrived. Take him away. As guards led Adeyemi from the courtroom, Amara stood up. She couldn't see him, but she wanted him to hear her voice one last time. "Senator, I hope my father is the first thing you think about every morning and the last thing you think about every night for the rest of your life. I hope you never know another moment of peace." Adeyemi didn't respond, but Amara heard his chains rattling as he was led away to begin his life sentences. Outside the courthouse, Amara gave a brief statement to the media. "Justice has been served. My father can rest in peace. Every woman in Nigeria can see that even powerful men face consequences. This is not the end of corruption in Nigeria, but it's a beginning. It's proof that change is possible. Thank you to everyone who fought for this outcome, the EFCC, the judiciary, the journalists, the ordinary Nigerians who refuse to accept corruption as normal. You've given us all hope." The celebration lasted for days. Lagos erupted in street parties. The president gave a national address praising the verdict as a turning point. International media declared Nigeria was entering a new era of accountability. But for Amara, the real celebration was quieter. She and Chioma returned to the Lekki compound, where they could finally breathe without fear. It's over, Mama, Chioma said. It's really over. Yes, Amara agreed. It's over. What happens now? Now we live, Amara said. We build the foundation. We help other women. We honor your grandfather's memory by making Nigeria better. And we heal. Can we really heal from all this? Chioma asked. I think so, Amara said. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying the pain in a way that makes us stronger rather than bitter. Your grandfather taught me that. Steel is forged in fire, remember? We're steel, Chioma said. We're steel, Amara confirmed. 3 months later, the Chief Adebayo Nwosu Foundation for Women's Justice officially opened its doors. The foundation occupied a beautiful building in Victoria Island, staffed by lawyers, counselors, security experts, and activists, all dedicated to helping women escape abuse and fight corruption. Zainab, the cashier who'd read the documents aloud, became the foundation's director of ethics training. She trained thousands of bank employees, civil servants, and business professionals on how to recognize fraud and corruption, and how to have the courage to speak up. Chioma, though still finishing her secondary school education, worked at the foundation on weekends and holidays. She'd found her calling in helping other young people whose families had been destroyed by corruption and abuse. And Amara, the blind widow who'd refused to sign, became one of the most influential voices in Nigerian civil society. She testified before Parliament about domestic violence reforms. She advised the EFCC on protecting witnesses. She spoke at universities, churches, and community centers across the country. A year after the trial, Amara received word that Chidi had completed his prison sentence, reduced to 5 years for his cooperation, and was being released. He'd requested a meeting with her and Chioma. Do you want to see him? Amara asked her daughter. Chioma thought for a long moment. Yes, but not because I forgive him. Because I want him to see who I've become without him. I want him to see that we survived and thrived. They met in a supervised visitation room at the foundation. Chidi entered quietly, his footsteps hesitant. He'd aged dramatically. His voice carried the weight of years in prison and the knowledge of everything he'd lost. Amara, Chioma, thank you for seeing me. We're giving you 15 minutes, Amara said coolly. What do you want to say? I want to apologize, Chidi said. I know it's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I need you to know that I understand what I did. I destroyed our family. I betrayed you both. I worked with a murderer. I tried to steal from you, Amara. I threatened our daughter. There's no excuse, no justification. I was selfish and greedy and cruel. Yes, Amara agreed. You were all of those things. I've spent 5 years thinking about the man I became, Chidi continued. Wondering when I turned into someone who could work with a killer, who could abuse his blind wife, who could terrorize his own child. I still don't have good answers, but I want you to know that I'm different now. Prison changed me. Watching what you did, bringing down Adeyemi, creating the foundation, becoming this force for good, it made me realize what real strength looks like, and what real weakness looks like. What do you want from us? Chioma asked. Nothing, Chidi said. I know I have no right to ask for anything. I just wanted you to hear me apologize. And I wanted to tell you that I'm leaving Nigeria. I'm moving to Ghana, starting over with a new name, a new life. You'll never have to see me or hear from me again. I'm removing myself from your lives permanently. Good, Chioma said. That's the first decent thing you've done in years. Chidi flinched but nodded. You're right. Chioma, I want you to know something. You're stronger than I ever was. Braver, kinder, better. I failed as your father in every possible way, but somehow you turned out incredible anyway. That's all your mother and your grandfather. I claim no credit. You're right about that too, Chioma said. You get no credit. For anything good in my life, you get zero credit. I understand, Chitty said. Amara, I won't ask for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that what you did, standing up to me, to Adeyemi, to the entire corrupt system, that's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Your father would be so proud of you. I hope someday you can be proud of yourself too. I already am, Amara said. I don't need your validation, Chitty. I never did. That was something you made me believe, but it was never true. I know, Chitty said quietly. I know that now. The 15 minutes ended. Chitty stood to leave, pausing at the door. Goodbye, Amara. Goodbye, Chioma. I hope you have beautiful lives. I hope Nigeria becomes everything your father dreamed it could be. And I hope that someday, in some small way, the information I provided helps make that happen. It's not redemption, but maybe it's a start. Then he was gone, and Amara and Chioma sat in silence. How do you feel? Amara asked her daughter. Free, Chioma said. Like the last chain just broke. He's gone, Mama. Really gone. Yes, Amara agreed. He is. Do you think he really changed? Amara considered it. Maybe. Prison changes people. Losing everything changes people. But it doesn't matter if he changed or not. What matters is that we changed. We became stronger. We became fighters. We became exactly who we needed to be to survive. 2 years later, on what would have been Chief Adebayo Nwosu's 70th birthday, Amara and Chioma stood at his grave at Ikoyi Cemetery. The foundation had grown to serve over 5,000 women. Corruption prosecutions in Nigeria had increased by 400%. Parliament had passed sweeping domestic violence reforms. The country wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was better. Happy birthday, Daddy, Amara said, placing flowers on his grave. We did it. We finished your fight. We made Nigeria a little bit better. Chioma added her own flowers. Grandpa, I'm starting university next month. University of Lagos, studying law. I'm going to be a prosecutor, like the ones who put Adeyemi away. I'm going to spend my life putting bad people in prison. I think you'd like that. They stood in comfortable silence, 3 generations of Nwosu's strength. The grandfather who'd built an empire and fought corruption, the daughter who'd survived attempted murder and brought down a senator, and the granddaughter who would carry the fight forward. Mama, Chioma said as they prepared to leave, do you ever wish you could see again? Wish you could see the foundation, see the changes happening in Nigeria, see me graduate? Amara smiled. Of course I do. Every day. But I've learned something in these 5 years of darkness. Sometimes you see more clearly without your eyes. I see people's true nature in their voices, their actions, their choices. I see corruption not in ledgers, but in consequences. I see love not in faces, but in sacrifices. Senator Adeyemi tried to blind me as a way to control me, but instead, he gave me a different kind of sight. A truer kind. That's very philosophical, Mama, Chioma teased. Your grandfather always said I was too philosophical. Amara laughed. But he also said that philosophy without action is useless. So we act. We build the foundation. We help women. We fight corruption. We honor his memory by living the values he taught us. Steel forged in fire, Chioma said. Steel forged in fire, Amara agreed. As they left the cemetery, Amara heard the sounds of Lagos around her. Traffic, hawkers, the constant pulse of life in Nigeria's largest city. This was her home, chaotic and beautiful and frustrating and full of potential. This was the country her father had loved despite all its flaws. the country he'd fought for, the country he'd died defending. And now it was her turn to love it, fight for it, defend it. Not with her father's money or power, but with her own hard-won wisdom, her survival, her voice. The blind widow who'd refused to sign had become the woman who changed a nation. Not by being perfect or fearless, but by being stubborn enough to fight even when fighting seemed impossible. By being brave enough to speak even when silence would have been safer. By being strong enough to survive, and then strong enough to help others survive too. $600 million couldn't buy that kind of strength. Neither could sight, or a husband, or anything else Amara had once thought she needed. Real strength came from fire. From loss. From choosing to stand up even when you couldn't see the path forward. From refusing to accept injustice as normal. From being steel. And Amara Okonkwo, daughter of Chief Adebayo Nwosu, mother of Chioma, founder of Nigeria's most successful women's justice foundation, was nothing if not steel. She'd been tested in fire, broken, and reforged. And now she was unbreakable. 5 years after Senator Adeyemi's conviction, a young woman named Blessing walked into the Chief Adebayo Nwosu Foundation. She was 23, married to an older man who controlled all her money, told her she was worthless, threatened her when she talked about leaving. The intake counselor who met with her asked, "What made you decide to come here today?" Blessing pulled out her phone and showed a video, Amara's press conference from 5 years ago, viewed millions of times, shared across Nigerian social media endlessly. "I watched this woman," Blessing said, tears streaming down her face. "This blind woman, who couldn't even see her husband's face, but who refused to let him steal from her. If she could be that brave, maybe I can be brave too. Maybe I can leave. Maybe I can survive." The counselor smiled. "You can more than survive. You can thrive. That's what we do here. We help women like you become women like Mrs. Okonkwo. Strong. Free. Unbreakable. Can I meet her?" Blessing asked. "Mrs. Okonkwo? Can I thank her? She's here every Wednesday," the counselor said. "I'm sure she'd love to meet you. She says every woman who walks through these doors reminds her why she fought so hard. You remind her that it was worth it." That Wednesday, Blessing met Amara in the Foundation's counseling center. She told her story, the abuse, the control, the fear. And Amara listened, holding her hand, understanding every word because she'd lived it herself. "You're going to be okay," Amara promised. "You're already okay. You walked through that door. That's the hardest step. Everything else we'll do together." "I'm scared," Blessing admitted. "Good," Amara said. "Fear means you're alive. Fear means you're fighting. Fear is the first step toward courage. Trust me, I know." And she did know. Because Amara Okonkwo, the blind wife who'd been forced to sign away $400 million at a bank, until a brave cashier read the documents aloud, had learned that the hardest battles are fought in the darkest moments. That justice is possible even when it seems impossible. That courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. She'd learned that steel, when forged in fire, becomes unbreakable. And she'd spent every day since teaching other women the same lesson. You are stronger than you know. You are braver than you believe. You are capable of surviving anything. Even betrayal by a husband. Even attempted murder by a senator. Even losing your sight and having to navigate the world in darkness. You are steel. And steel doesn't break. It bends, it flexes, it absorbs the blow and strikes back harder. That was Chief Adebayo Nwosu's legacy. That was Amara Okonkwo's truth. And that was the future of Nigeria, a country built not on corruption and fear, but on the unbreakable strength of women who refuse to accept injustice as normal. The end. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey with Amara Okonkwo. If this story moved you, please like this video, Subscribe to African Tales by Ben for more powerful stories, and share this with someone who needs to hear Amara's message of strength and resilience. Comment below, what was your favorite moment in this story? Which character inspired you most? And where are you watching from? Your engagement helps us bring more authentic African stories to life. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale. Remember, you are stronger than you know, and no betrayal can break you if you refuse to be broken. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep fighting for justice. This is African Tales by Ben, signing off. Retrium.